Steel City country is where we come from.
Okay.
Steel has all gone, hearts are still strong.
That's why I think you'd be the leader.
Fire still burns, oh the furnace has gone. Steel City country, move right along. Steel City country is where we come from. Steel has all gone, hearts are still strong. Fire still burns, oh the furnace has gone. Steel City country, move right along. Steel City country, always live on. Steel City country, always, will always live on.
On behalf of the Newcastle Industrial Heritage Association, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this historic event in the life of the city. Would you please join me in thanking Mel Summers for our music today? Thank you, Mel. Mel will join us at the completion of our official ceremonies and proceedings with more musical tributes to the great men and women of steel. Well, today we gather to mark 100 years since the official opening of the Newcastle BHP Steelworks on this day in 1915. Today we'll hear about the past, the present and the future impacts of the decision by the company to invest in this region. We'll also honour the men and women of steel who gave so much of their working lives to this great enterprise and this great city. But now to our first speaker. Scott MacDonald, MLC, is our Parliamentary Secretary for the Hunter and was given special permission to leave State Parliament this morning to represent the Premier Mike Baird. Would you please make him welcome?
Thank you, John. I think you've got the better end of the bargain sitting in the sun out there. It's a bit cold back there. But John, I appreciate it. And Mike Baird, the Premier, did want to be here, but as I say, it's the sitting day, so unfortunately he couldn't be here. Also welcome and thank you to the other distinguished guests. And I also would like to pay my respects to country. Today is about celebrating that contribution from the steelworks. It is about looking back, but it's also about looking forward. And I think the Premier did want to convey to you that this is a milestone. It is 100 years. The steelworks has closed, but Newcastle is reinventing itself, and that's always challenging. It was certainly challenging 16 years ago when the works closed, but like any vibrant community, it is reinventing itself. It is already one of the significant cities of Australia, and I think the money that you'll see invested by all sorts of organisations and the state government, you will see Newcastle be one of the truly great cities of the country. You're on the water, you have access to beautiful beaches, you're a livable city, a beautiful climate. The industries are diversifying. Education is growing, the health system is developing. So this will be, I think, one of the more affordable and premier places to live in the future. But as I say, this morning is about respecting the history that began with the BHP. I can't finish without thanking Tim Owen, who isn't able to be here today. Tim Owen was the previous member here for Newcastle, and he got the $30,000 to assist Orb and Bob to put up their memorial. So Tim, thank you very much. Bob again, and the Newcastle Heritage Association, it's a wonderful job. You're a credit to the community, and I wish Newcastle the very, very best for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Of course, we wouldn't be here today if BHP had not taken the courageous and strategic decision to invest in the steelworks in this city. And to reflect on that history of the steelworks in Newcastle, it's great to have with us here today Mark van den Heuvel, Acting Asset President, BHP Billiton. Make him welcome, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I'd also like to pay my respects to the traditional owners, and it's fairly fitting for us, given that this is Recognition Week, which really recognises back in 1967 when a vote was taken and we included Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders into our census. Look, very proud to be here on behalf of BHP, now BHP Billiton. Also very proud to be here personally, given that I'm also now a third generation steel worker. My father and grandfather both were employed in the Newcastle Steelworks here, as was myself and my brother. Now that's not a non-typical story, as many of you here would know. This is quite typical. Having a bit of a chat to Aubrey there before the proceedings this morning, he can obviously describe a much longer lineage than what I have, but it's just fantastic to be able to hear those stories again and reflect on the people that have been involved in Newcastle Steelworks. We all know that this is Steel City. Newcastle is Steel City, and again, the history is long. If we go back to on this day, the 2nd of June in 1915, when BHP signed a contract with both federal and state governments for the supply of 66,000 tonnes of steel to go into manufacturing of rail. And we know back then it was wartime, and the steelworks predominantly was about supporting the war effort. At the same time, there was also a federal munitions committee that was set up, and obviously they were there to ensure that both the manufacturing and the supply of munitions to the war efforts could be set up through facilities like the steelworks here. Lastly, I suppose I would just like to again acknowledge a fantastic memorial. So congratulations to William. I think that's it's a true iconic piece, and we'll obviously hear a little bit more about that through the day. I'd like to recognise all of the employees over the 84 years of manufacturing out of Newcastle Steelworks. I think we all stand together as past employees in recognising those that didn't go home to their families at the end of the day, and I think this is a fantastic tribute, William, to those people that didn't come home at the end of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Our next guest speaker had an intimate working knowledge of the Newcastle Steelworks. Jack Risby was the Steelworks manager from 1980 to 86 and was there during the early rollout of the Steel Industry Plan. Jack often poses the question, what would Newcastle have been like as a city without BHP? Perhaps he'll give us an answer today. Please make him welcome.
Thank you, John, Dean of Newcastle, and other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. After 46 years working in the industry, it's a subject probably I prefer not to talk about. And we've had wonderful coverage in the press about the industry. I'm going to massage my title a little bit this morning. I'd like to just talk briefly about some of the early developments in the steelworks, which had a great development for the city. We often hear about how the works performed, and but some of the early development was very, very important in the growth of the city. When you think of the early production of steel after 1915, it was so successful that under the guidance of David Baker, the first general manager, that the British steel companies, Lysarts, Rylands and Stewart and Lloyds, quickly seized the opportunity to establish themselves near the works and produce their wire products, tubular products and sheeting iron from feed produced at the steelwork. And this, of course, resulted in the development of all these suburbs to our left over here, to my left over here. The suburbs of Mayfield in particular and Waratah, and most of you know a lot about those subjects today. But they grew very rapidly after the establishment of Lysart's and Rylands and Stewart and Lloyd's works in Newcastle. In 1941, we had RAAF fighter group established in Williamtown, and that was established there because of the strategic harbour and the work that was being done in the heavy industry. Japanese knew that, of course, in 1942, and I was able to witness that from the end of the Open Hearth building. But the Air Force now is still established at Williamtown and is a wonderful part of our community. It will be there for the long term and now shares space with civil aircraft at the single runway at Williamtown. Well, we can go on, but to think about what the city might be like without the steelworks is, I think you can see that developments like that in our city may well have not happened without the steelworks. I congratulate all the people who have been involved in organising the day. Driving over was a bit like coming to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. Well, the steel industry has changed markedly, of course, since the steelwork closure. Steve Hamer is the Chief Executive Steel at Arium. One Steel is a division of Arium, and we're very pleased to have him join us today to explain how steel continues to impact on this region and this nation. Please make him welcome.
Thanks, John, and good morning all. It's truly a pleasure to be here to represent the hundreds of talented men and women who continue to work in the Newcastle steel industry, and also the generations that will follow them. As most of you know, One Steel spun out from BHP in 2000 as a domestic steel manufacturer and distributor, and today as Arium, we continue to operate several steel businesses in and around Newcastle. 2015 marks a really important year across our industry. We're celebrating two very significant anniversaries, with a century of steelmaking here in the Hunter, and last month we celebrated 50th birthday of our steelworks in Whyalla in South Australia. During this time, the steel industry has had a lasting impact, not only on these communities, but on our nation. Steel's contributed to building our nation and contributes directly to our quality of life, and that's something that tens of thousands of men and women of steel are rightly proud of. The closure of the Newcastle Steelworks and the ongoing reshaping of local steel manufacturing has delivered a very different looking region from that of decades past. But Newcastle continues to support a strong and passionate industry that is very much a part of the future. Just over 1,500 Arium people are employed in steel manufacturing or related functions in Newcastle, from our newest apprentices and graduates through to those who joined the steelworks and related industries many decades ago. Times to remain tough for us, but our people are resilient. We, together, have achieved some amazing things over the past decade, and in particular, over the last 5 years. We will continue to find new ways to deliver new value to our customers, and there are many outstanding examples of this even in the last 6 months coming out of the Newcastle businesses. We have confidence in our future. We have great people within a great industry. There is enormous pride amongst our workforce with respect to what they have achieved over the years, and this pride will fuel what we achieve going forward. We need to respect our 100 years of history as it shaped what we are today. But by working together, we can embrace a future and add new chapters to this 100-year milestone, bringing prosperity to our employees and to the region. So on behalf of my colleagues at the whole of the Arium Group, from Mollycop, from Oz Tube Mills, Metal Centre, ARC, One Steel Wire and the broader One Steel Group, I thank you for your ongoing passion and support for steel in Newcastle. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Steve. One of the legacies of the BHP Steelworks is the many businesses which grew up around that time, and many continue to prosper today. Hunter United Credit Union is one such business, and we're joined this morning by the CEO, Steve Martinelli, to reflect on the ongoing legacy for business. Please make him welcome.
Thank you very much, John. It's a pleasure to be here this morning on a beautiful Newcastle day. Firstly, on behalf of my team at Hunter United, we'd like to extend our thoughts to those families who have lost loved ones working at the BHP over many years. And a huge thanks to NIHA for their tireless work in bringing this beautiful memorial to fruition. And in particular, I'd like to make mention of both Bob Cook and Aubrey Brooks, whose efforts should never go unrecognised. Well done, guys. Now, whether you knew someone who worked at the BHP or not, today is really an opportunity for us all to take a moment to acknowledge the contribution of the steel workers to our community and the development of the greater Newcastle region. Those of you who lived and worked in Newcastle in the 1960s would remember it as a time of revolution, a time of change, a time of innovation, both cultural and political. The time of excitement and transformation in the BHP, who formed the backbone of employees for the Newcastle and Hunter region, providing jobs for more than 11,000 people at the time. However, the individual employment opportunities offered by the BHP wasn't its only influence in the region. The Steelworks was, of course, also responsible for much of the business growth we see and enjoy in the Hunter at the time. Of particular note was an emerging demand for employee support, particularly in the areas of personal finance. And Hunter United Credit Union, or the BHP Employees Credit Union, as it was known at the time, was one such local business that certainly owes its significance to the men and women of BHP. What is less known is the speed at which our business was actually formed. The New South Wales government at the time recognised a need for employee credit unions to be formed to help the working men with their financial affairs. This concept attracted widespread support from the BHP employees, and come the inaugural meeting in 1963, over 200 workers had committed to join as members by taking up shares, and in so doing set a speed record for formation, being the first formed and chartered in the same evening, with formalities completed and each director signing the charter on the same night. We all wish it could go so fast today. Within 10 years, the membership had grown to over 7,000 members, and I suspect many of you are still here today. Today we stand strong as the region's largest credit union, still assisting the people of Newcastle. The main difference is that those original members are now introducing a second and third generation to the benefits of their credit union. As a business, Hunter United is proud of our industrial heritage and we look forward to a vibrant future, growing our membership beyond the industry gates. We're still serving that industrial workforce that formed our business more than 50 years ago. Thank you.
So as we reflect on the 100-year anniversary today, we can also ask the question, what's the future of this BHP Steelworks site? Well, today this site is managed by the Hunter Development Corporation. And to give us a glimpse into the future for this site, please welcome Bob Hawes, General Manager of HDC.
Thanks, John. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd also like to pass on my congratulations to Bob and the team. This site, after that terrible storm of the 20th of April, was littered like everywhere else in Newcastle with fallen trees and flotsam and jetsam and so on, and they've done a great job to spark it up today to be able to welcome you all here today on this momentous occasion. So thanks very much for coming and congratulations to the team. Certainly this site and the legacy of the closing of the steelworks left some enormous challenges. The cleaning of the river by the BHP Billiton, spending over $500 million to rehabilitate the river is a case in point. That was a world-renowned now, and it's a world-leading exercise in rehabilitation of that seafloor. And the works that the Hunter Development Corporation are doing on behalf of the New South Wales Government are also one of the biggest remediation exercises that is currently in place across Australia today, and we are continuing that exercise. The front 90 hectares of land has already been rehabilitated on the waterfront, and that land is now part of the port lease, or the lease of the Newcastle port, to Port of Newcastle, and we're hoping that they're able to attract some new industry and some new opportunities to this region, which aren't easy to grasp. And I think that is something that this region has to remember, that we're now in a very competitive situation, that opportunities that come along right around Australia to attract jobs and attract industry aren't just particular to Newcastle. And we've got to make sure that we're ready, and that what we have is we can show the world and show those industries and those opportunities that we have, not only the land opportunity, but the labour and the technology and all the other things that go in to back it up. And hopefully that's what we're being able to do. So it is a big program we've still got to do. There's still more than half the site that has to be rehabilitated, and coincidentally the next tranche of those works is about to start in the coming months. So the truck movements in and out of BHP, the old BHP site, will commence again as more earth to cap the site is brought on site. And hopefully, as I said, this will allow this opportunity, some of these more pivotal moments that could happen, the private industry to step up, recognise the strengths of this region, and allow the opportunities that not only you all had to work at something as great as the BHP, but also for your children, and I suspect in many cases your grandchildren, to be able to have choices to work here and stay here in this region and continue that growth that we've so long experienced, and not have to leave this region as a case of need, but only leave the region if they want to exercise choice. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing me to be here today. I look forward to being able to finish off the task that we've been given, and hopefully it's a task that's sufficient to lay the groundwork for new industry to be born and new opportunities to be created in this region. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. The Newcastle Steelworkers Memorial Project was launched in 2011. Expressions of interest were called on the 2nd of June, and about 30 submissions were received from sculptors from all across Australia. Local sculptor and blacksmith Will Maguire won that commission and has overseen every aspect of the build and installation since. In fact, we believe he literally finished it off about 2 hours ago this morning. The memorial project cost $70,000, together with generous donations in kind of most of the materials from Arian, and we say a collective and public thank you to them. So today we're here to officially launch and bless the memorial to the men and women who lost their lives during the 8 decades of steelmaking in this city. We invite you to join the Very Reverend Stephen Williams, the Dean of Newcastle, to move to the memorial, to form a circle around that memorial, and you will notice on some plinths some small rocks, and the Dean will explain the significance of that in this ceremony very, very shortly. Piper Sean Manning from the Australian Army Band in Newcastle will play the lament as those who wish now move to the memorial site adjacent to our stage. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome everyone to this part of our ceremony. Many of you here are touched personally by the loss of a loved one or a mate, someone close to you, and this is a sacred moment as we hold those people in our hearts and memories, as we pay tribute to them, and as also we honour those among us who are touched by grief or whose life has been made lonely or difficult because of a loss here. We have on these white plinths some stones, some pieces of what could be steel. At the conclusion of our dedication prayer, everyone is invited to come and just take hold of one and place it as part of the memorial that is your contribution to completing the memorial here today. We give thanks for 80 years of creativity and achievement by the many thousands of people who were part of BHP on this site. We celebrate the many different tasks and skills that have contributed to the steel industry here, giving thanks for the contribution of BHP workers to the prosperity of the Hunter and of the nation, and to the war effort in conflicts through the past 100 years. We do remember those who were injured here in the course of their work, and those who are bereaved because of those who've lost their lives. And it is those, most of all, whom we call to mind this morning. We pray that this memorial will help others to remember those people with gratitude and with reverence into the future. And now we bless and dedicate the Newcastle Steelworks Memorial to the memory of those who died in the course of their working life in this place. In the name of the living God, Father, Son and Holy Spirit, Amen. The piper will play again as we place a rock here in this place.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more official duty to perform here today. Thank you to the Dean. Today we have, courtesy of the Newcastle Industrial Heritage Association, a unique time capsule, a 3-ton steel bloom which has been drilled and will house a stainless steel capsule containing historical records and other significant memorabilia. I invite Bob Cook and Aubrey Brooks to the time capsule now to formally place it in position. It's planned to open this time capsule in 50 years' time. However, today Bob Cook, President of the Association, will be joined by Vice President Aubrey Brooks to seal the capsule for future generations in the hope that they will remember and understand the significance of today's event. Thank you, gentlemen. The time capsule has been fully manufactured by Arian from a bloom made at the Steelworks bloom caster. I would like to thank you all for your attendance today. That's the end of our formal duties, and we will be sharing some morning tea together, and we invite you all to join us in the marquee for some refreshments. And we'd like you also to not be outdone by the museum. We've got our own cake here as well. So if you can't make it to the museum on Saturday for cake, there is some cake here today, proudly baked by Bob's wife. Looking at Bob, I think it's good cake.
It definitely is. Could all of the members of Newcastle Industrial Heritage Association please now gather around the cake as we cut it together?
Thank you, everyone.
Down at the marquee.
Thank you.
Good work, team.
Looking this way. President.
Look, that's the camera there. Look at that camera. Hey, 1, 2, when they're ready. Let's cut it.
So many families are in despair. I'm a loved one no longer there. Life lost to his working crew. So this memorial we've built for you. Men of steel must be strong. A working day is hard and long. Stoke the furnace, heat the iron, load the cargo from the mine. Men of steel must be strong. A working day is hard and long. Stoke the furnace, heat the iron, load the cargo from the mine. Load that cargo from the mine. Unload that cargo from the mine. Unload that cargo from the mine. For the memorial. Thank you very much.